As you get into yield farming, impermanent loss is a term you're going to hear often in the community, usually with the same kind of disgust reserved for airport security lines or Bud Light. I've seen lots of explainers on how it works, and honestly, people make it sound way more complicated than it actually is. So, in this video, we're going to break it down in the simplest terms possible. So simple that even your grandparents could explain it to their friends. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what impermanent loss is, how it happens, and what you can do to protect yourself in yield farming. Before we dive in, if you're interested in learning how to take yield farming to the next level and build a cash-flowing DeFi business, be sure to check out Crypto Research Lab's free course on how to build a cash-flowing DeFi business. Just click on the link in the description below for access. And as always, remember, this video is purely educational and not financial advice. Always do your own research before making any investment decisions. Hi everyone, welcome to Crypto Coach News, your gateway to crypto mastery. So what exactly is impermanent loss? One of the key strategies in yield farming is to contribute your crypto assets to a liquidity pool, which is used to facilitate trading on decentralized exchanges or DEXs. These pools consist of a fixed ratio of tokens based on their value. For example, in a pool made up of Ethereum and USDC, the pool maintains the same value of Ethereum and USDC tokens combined. Not necessarily the same quantity of each token, but the same value of each token. When the price of ETH goes up, the pool automatically decreases the quantity of ETH and increases the quantity of USDC to balance the total value of the pool. Conversely, if the price of ETH goes down, the quantity of ETH in the pool will increase, while the amount of USDC will decrease to maintain the same value. So essentially, as the number of one token in the pool goes up, the number of the other tokens goes down to maintain that constant value balance. Now, if you've staked your tokens in the pool and the price of one asset changes, the value of your share in the pool also changes too. The new value of your tokens in the pool could be less than the value it would have been if you had just held the tokens outside of the pool. This difference in value is called impermanent loss. It's called impermanent because the loss only becomes permanent when you withdraw your tokens from the pool. As long as you keep your assets in the pool, the value fluctuates in line with the token prices. If the prices return to their original ratio, the loss can disappear, hence why it's referred to as impermanent. If that's confusing, don't worry, we are going to illustrate this with an example. Okay, so imagine there's this weird commune that loves apples and oranges. Everyone contributes their apples and oranges to a shared pool that always contains $100 worth of fruit. The villagers can use this shared pool to trade apples for oranges whenever they want. At the start, the pool has 50 apples and 50 oranges, and an apple is worth one orange, so a simple 1-to-1 ratio. And let's say each fruit is worth $1, so the total value of the pool is $100. Now, let's say Taylor Swift endorses apples so that their popularity surges and the price doubles. Now, one apple is worth 2 oranges, and people in the commune start trading their oranges for apples, and as they do, the pool loses apples and gains more oranges. After a while, the pool might have 25 apples and 75 oranges, but the total value is still $100 because apples are now more valuable. Let's say you're a farmer who contributed fruit to the pool. If you originally contributed 5 apples and 5 oranges, you had $10 worth of fruit. But now that the pool has adjusted, your share will change too. Instead of having 5 apples and 5 oranges, you might now have 3 apples and 7 oranges because the pool needed to balance the value. Even though you still have $10 worth of fruit in total, you end up with fewer apples, which are now more valuable, and more oranges, which haven't changed in price. If you had just held on to your 5 apples outside the pool, you'd have more value because apples are now worth more. That difference between what you would have had by holding the fruit yourself and what you get from the pool is called impermanent loss. Why is it impermanent? It's called impermanent because if the price of the apples goes back to normal, the pool will rebalance and your loss could disappear. But if you withdraw while the price is still different, that loss becomes permanent. Now, impermanent loss isn't a big concern in the fruit picking industry. So hopefully we can make this even clearer if we use some numerical examples using crypto. Rather than the pool being made up of apples and oranges, let's now say that it's made up of Ethereum and USDC. Say you added $1,000 worth of Ethereum and $1,000 worth of USDC into a liquidity pool. That's $2,000 worth of assets in total. If the price of Ethereum goes up to $2,000, you might think you're in for a profit. But here's the twist. The liquidity pool automatically adjusts the balance between the two tokens, and when you withdraw, the value of your tokens is lower than if you had just held onto them. This is because the pool wants to maintain a 50-50 ratio between the two assets. In our case, you'd have more USDC than Ethereum when you exit the pool, and the difference in value compared to simply holding onto your Ethereum is what we call impermanent loss. You might still have more money than when you started, but less than if you had just held onto the Ethereum on its own. So how big can impermanent loss really get? Well, the bigger the price change between the two tokens you've paired, the bigger the potential loss. Let me show you just how dramatic this can get with an extreme example. Let's say you're providing liquidity to an Ethereum USDC pool with $10,000. You've got 5 ETH, each worth $1,000 and 5,000 USDC. So your total investment is perfectly split, 50% Ethereum and 50% USDC. Now imagine ETH's price goes to the moon and increases by 500%. That means 1 ETH is now worth $6,000. Pretty exciting, right? You think that would mean huge gains for you? Well, here's where impermanent loss starts to hurt. If you had simply held your 5 ETH and 5,000 USDC without providing liquidity, your ETH would be now worth $30,000 and you'd still have your 5,000 USDC. So you'd have a total of $35,000. But because you contributed to the liquidity pool, the pool automatically rebalances your holdings as the price of ETH rises. So now, instead of holding your 5 ETH, you might only have 1.67 ETH, and the pool will have swapped the rest for USDC. You end up, therefore, with $10,000 worth of ETH and $25,000 worth of USDC. At first glance, that sounds pretty good, right? But here's the kicker. Instead of the $35,000 you could have had if you had just held onto your ETH and USDC, you now only have about $29,694 to be exact. So you've missed out on over $6,300 in potential gains. That's a whopping 17.9% loss. And even though ETH skyrocketed and the total value of your assets went up, you lost a significant chunk of your potential profits because the pool swapped your appreciating Ethereum for USDC along the way. The more the price of one token increases relative to the other, the bigger your impermanent loss. Even though you're earning fees in the pool, these losses can seriously cut into your profits, especially when the price of a volatile asset like Ethereum soars. That's why it's so important to understand the risks of impermanent loss when providing liquidity, especially in volatile markets. Let's discuss some ways to reduce your exposure to impermanent loss. While it's impossible to eliminate it completely, there are strategies that can minimize its impact. For instance, providing liquidity in a stablecoin pair pool, such as USDC and DAI, can help reduce volatility. Since both tokens are pegged to the dollar, their prices tend to stay relatively stable compared to more volatile assets like Ethereum. This generally means less impermanent loss. That said, lower risk often means lower potential rewards. Stablecoins don't experience the same large price swings, so the opportunities for bigger gains are more limited. However, this also means there's less exposure to major losses from price fluctuations. Another approach to reducing risk is diversifying liquidity across multiple pools. Rather than concentrating liquidity in one pool, some liquidity providers choose to spread their assets across multiple different pools, some stable, some more volatile. This can potentially reduce the effect of price swings in any one pool. For example, providing liquidity in a stablecoin pool such as USDC DAI may offer stability. Volatile pool like ETH USDC could expose you to higher impermanent loss, but may offer you more trading fees. If a volatile asset like ETH rises or falls sharply, the risk of impermanent loss in that pool might be higher, but having liquidity in a stablecoin pool might balance things out, potentially limiting the overall risk. Diversifying liquidity pools also allows for different levels of return opportunities. Different pools have varying returns based on factors like trading volume and demand. For instance, a pool with a higher trading volume like ETH USDC could generate more fees during periods of high activity, while a stablecoin pool may offer lower but more consistent returns. Trading fees play a critical role in helping offset impermanent loss. Even if the value of tokens fluctuates, the fees earned from transactions in the pool can help balance out those fluctuations. Each time a trade occurs in a pool, liquidity providers earn a small percentage as a fee. On platforms like Uniswap, this fee is typically 0.3% per trade. These fees accumulate over time and can help offset any impermanent loss caused by price changes. For example, in an ETH USDC pool, frequent trades between ETH and USDC can result in higher fees, which could help cover the impermanent loss from ETH's price movements. Liquidity providers often focus on high-volume pools to maximize trading fees. Pools that experience a loss of activity, like ETH USDC or BTC USDT, tend to generate more frequent fees, which can lead to higher returns from the trades happening within the pool. Higher trading volumes typically means more fees for liquidity providers. Additionally, popular tokens such as ETH, USDC, and DAI are traded more frequently, which may result in higher fees over time. However, it's important to also consider gas fees, especially on platforms like Ethereum, since transaction costs can cut into overall profits. Keeping an eye on gas fees is important when adding or removing liquidity frequently. By distributing liquidity across different pools with varying levels of risk and reward, and understanding how trading fees can help offset some of the impermanent loss, liquidity providers can manage their exposure to price fluctuations. While impermanent loss is always a factor in yield farming, trading fees and diversification can play a role in reducing its overall impacts. So, there you have it. Impermanent loss isn't as complicated as it sounds, and hopefully even your grandma could now explain it. Please leave a comment on the video and let me know how your conversation with your grandparents goes. It's all about understanding how liquidity pools work and knowing when to use them to your advantage. Always keep an eye on the tokens you're pairing, the potential fees you're earning, and how much price volatility you're willing to take on. If this video helps make impermanent loss clearer for you, please be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more easy to understand crypto content. And if you want to dive deeper into the world of yield farming, check out my other video, Yield Farming, Everything You Need to Know, where I cover all the basics, strategies, and risks involved. You'll find everything you need to get started. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or your own experiences with impermanent loss. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.